I'm in the hyper pump chat, and it's a Telegram group with 27,000 members. And we've got all these channels here for the different coins that are vying to be listed on HyperLiquid. All right. So then if you just like click on one of these here, I've got HTARD, which got some quality memes. Now, you can see in here, there's an option to trade, right? I just hit this trade button, okay? And I can buy, I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to buy $20 of HTARD. Done.
I mean, you got to be HTARDed to open your Telegram on a live stream, man. You're braver than me. I would not be touching that.
Welcome back to Bitcoin.com's Token Narratives, where we discuss the biggest stories shaping the Bitcoin and cryptoverse. My name is Graham Stone, and I'm repping the hype function at Bitcoin.com. I'm joined by news and research gigabrain, Mr. David Sensel, and Bitcoin.com Grand Poobah, Corbin Fraser. Okay, so the crypto markets broadly are dumping, and Bitcoin as well, pretty hard after hitting a new all-time high earlier in the week. Currently, and I should say it's Friday morning here in Asia, so Thursday night in the US. The price of Bitcoin is in the $96,000 to $97,000 range, which is down about 11% from the high that was set earlier this week. The broader crypto markets have a correction of approximately the same magnitude of Bitcoin, although most coins are down a greater percentage than Bitcoin itself, unsurprisingly. That's something we usually see. There are, of course, a few exceptions, which I think we'll get into later. Right, so with the markets in a free fall, is this a buy the dip moment, an exit all positions moment, or a wait for more downside to buy the dip moment? What do you think?
I mean, that's always the question,
I know none
right?
of you guys actually have any dry powder left, since you're all long to the tits.
So actually, I recently went somewhat more conservative. Yeah, I'd been kind of riding this all-in vibe for the better part of, I don't know, a year, I guess. And maybe within the last like week and a half, there was one, I woke up on a flight and had this really crazy dream that I was at the top of a building, and like the building was like falling apart around me. And then I went to the window and watched as the elevator like fell off the building, and I was like, so I'm just stuck on this top floor, and glass is breaking, things are shaking, and I'm like, I'm going down with this building, man. I'm stuck on this thing. And I woke up.
That sounds like Inception.
Dude, it was a really weird dream, and then I woke up kind of with that like heart racing, like, and then immediately just thought of my bags and was like, I gotta unwind some positions here. This is insane. What am I doing? And then I, as you do when you're, on a plane and you have access to the internet, you open up Twitter, and the first tweet I read is some guy being like, I'm exiting some of my positions. I think the, maximum upside on Bitcoin is maybe another 30 to 40% maximum. And that risk to reward ratio is just incompatible with, with how long I've been. So I'm taking some money off the table. And I was like, this guy seems completely logical. Whatever I've been doing has been illogical, and I don't know, man. Buildings are falling around me. Maybe I don't need to be all in. Maybe I could scale back to be slightly less in. And then, when I landed, I unwound some spot long positions back into stables. So I feel like I'm somewhat more balanced in a more conservative profile. For me, at least, it's probably way too aggressive for like the average person. But for me, it's like, okay, I got enough off the table. And now seeing the markets puke, I'm like, okay, maybe that was good. That was timing. Look at me go.
So the question still remains, Corbin. Are you getting long here again, or are you waiting for further dippage?
Yeah. Oh, we lost Corbin. I can answer that question. If
Go
I
ahead.
had money to, oh, you back, Corbin? I was just gonna say, if I did
Possibly
have
back.
money, yeah, you're back. I'll answer it first. If I had money, I wouldn't. I don't think it's going much lower. I think if you look at the chart, we're at support, and I think this is a buy to the dip moment.
Well, Graham, you do have money, and I can tell you how, because I've been thinking about this myself. You could put some of the spot holdings you have into Aave, take out.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I could lever up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I may, but I
Right,
need
if
a
you,
few eggnogs in me first. So
yeah, right.
over the
If this is the
weekend.
buy the dip opportunity, throw your Bitcoin or whatever into Aave,
Yeah, I mean,
and
so
just
You can
my
always
initial
go
reaction
longer.
this morning was markets are down enough. I could go back in, but part of me is taking that like, I don't know, man. I think wait and see right now. I mean,
Okay.
everyone's trying. I suspect everyone's trying to get out before the year end. I suspect there is this like people are gonna dump on this. They're gonna dump on the news of Trump getting in and not buying Bitcoin right away, or there's going to just be some like sell the news type of event, and it could go lower. But maybe this is good. Maybe this is healthy for the long-term bull, or I don't know. Was that it? Like, are you guys feeling like, is there a chance that was the top?
No way.
no chance.
Zero chance.
We're solidly into a bull cycle, and I don't think there really is any not any chance. Very low chance. Very low.
Do you have any theories on what caused this latest dip? Just a natural market correction? I'm seeing something about it happened basically right after the Fed cut its 25 basis points, and Jerome Powell in the press conference afterwards, after the rate cut was announced, said, and I quote, just a moment here, "We're not allowed to own Bitcoin," on the question of whether, the Bitcoin reserve question.
Yeah.
And it seemed that was timed with this correction. Is there any other catalyst?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, this was not a crypto catalyst, right? This is a broader market thing. I think the crypto markets still are kind of beta to traditional markets. So the Fed comes out, they have a rate cut. Everybody thought the rate cut was going to happen, but then in the conference, Powell talked hawkish, saying that the rate cuts that they had said would happen in 25 less could happen, and that seemed to be the catalyst. But a lot of the people that I pay attention to in the traditional finance space, they seem to think that a lot of this that the reaction didn't really match Powell's hawkishness. That is to say that the markets overreacted, and probably the reason is because of kind of automation, or just what's it called, mechanical trading, as in this happens, do this, something like that, and so yeah,
and it snowballed.
Yeah, I mean,
it snowballed.
My thought was that this could be like cascading failures just prior to the new year, where you've got probably enough long positions that maybe get liquidated, and it just becomes this kind of, like you said, sort of machine automation dump. Maybe there was some paper hand new institutional buyers that came in, near the end of the year and aren't used to the volatility, and there's that like fear, paper-handed fear of like, oh, what does this mean now for Bitcoin? I better just unwind and wait and see. And maybe that's enough to kind of keep things in this red candle, sad face emoji vibe for a few days. But it's all healthy, man. It's all healthy. You need a little pain on the way to the moon. It's not all going to be easy. Can't all make it to Valhalla, right? Some people got to get wrecked.
But
well, David, just
Yeah.
zooming out a bit, this is something that you shared in the doc for today, and it's a chart which shows the stablecoin creation, printing, I guess,
inflows,
and inflows. All right. So what's happening here is that generally stablecoin, the price in the markets is lags stablecoin inflows, right? So whoever made this chart here, they've got stablecoin inflows ramping up here, and then what happened next was a huge pump in the markets.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, is there anything else to say here? I mean, where are we at for stablecoin inflows now? I feel like something's missing here in this picture.
No, so what you're seeing is, what you're seeing is basically, yeah. I think the point though is that stablecoin inflows are increasing, and they still are increasing now, and so you see this price run up, and so moving forward, you would still think that this would continue, right? Like this is showing the kind of the past history of it, right? And the point being though that as it's basically showing something that we've known all along, which is stablecoin inflow increases come first before you see the market run up. So stablecoin inflows are still rising. You would presume that we will continue to see the entire market cap of crypto increase. So
okay, well, I think right now the price predictions that people are making for Bitcoin are largely dependent on what happens with the Bitcoin strategic reserve and whether or not the US actually creates a Bitcoin strategic reserve. I think there are a few scenarios here. So one is that a Bitcoin reserve is just clearly rejected, whether, for example, we've had Jerome Powell come out and say, we're not allowed to do that. Maybe there's some other way that it's rejected, what like Congress does something, so no, we can't do it, or Trump comes out and says, no, we're not doing it. So that's one scenario. Another is it's not rejected, but we don't get clarity. So in that scenario, probably there's just hopium and the market continues to grind higher. Obviously, if it's clearly rejected, we're going to see a price dump and a cap on how high we go this cycle, I think. The next scenario is that the currently held Bitcoin that's just earmarked as the Bitcoin reserve. So like they confiscated Bitcoin. I think it's around 200,000 BTC that the US hold. If they come out and say, okay, that's our strategic reserve, obviously that's bullish. And then the insanely bullish scenario is where the government comes out and says, we're actually going to like TWAP into Bitcoin. We're going to buy 1 million Bitcoin over the next, whatever it is, year, 2 years, as proposed in the Cynthia Lummis Bitcoin Act. And that's the insanely bullish scenario. So I think those are the 4 scenarios. And in the last week here or so, we've had a few interesting data points. So one was Trump. When was that? Earlier in the week, late last week, he rang the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. And after that, he was quoted as saying, we're going to do something great with crypto because we don't want China or anybody else. It's not just China, but others are embracing it, and we want to be the head. And then when he was asked whether the US would set up a Bitcoin strategic reserve akin to its oil stash, Trump answered, yes, I think so. Okay, so that's one data point. Then we had the Strike CEO, Jack Mallers. He, in an interview in a podcast, he said, now, I don't know how this guy seems to have some kind of connections at the highest level. He's in rooms, I guess. He said Trump is looking at a day one executive order. And he said there's potential to use day one executive order to purchase Bitcoin. It wouldn't be the size and scale of 1 million coins, but it would be a significant position. And it'd be a message that the United States is on board. So those are some data points. Yeah, go ahead.
If you pull up some of the recent news from Jerome Powell, like there's a lot of, like CNN, they're what are they saying here? Jerome Powell just showed Donald Trump who's boss. There's a lot of that going around right now. And it does make me think that there's kind of a potential clapback moment here for Trump and his team to be like, you can say that, but like we're in charge here, And I think my read on the situation is more like this administration got ran over by media and by pundits, and it seems like the new administration, like this new version of the Trump team, are a little bit more heavy-handed, a little bit more, what, we're just we got it all. We don't need to concede so much when we can just kind of bullhead our way through and figure it out later. And I think that's probably the best way forward for this, and for this whole Bitcoin reserve thing is like, sure, Jerome Powell, you can say all these things, and sure, maybe on the books you're not allowed to do this, but you know what? There's probably some other ways around it, and I'm sure Trump's got some pretty incredible lawyers behind him that are going to support some of the executive orders that he's going to kick in those first those first few weeks here. Like those first 40 days are going to set the tone for the entire administration. So I think the folks that, I think America for the most part are looking for that strong leadership and for that decisive action. And I'm confident that him and his team are going to have to do that in order to really give people that assurance that like, hey, we're here to make things better and we're trying everything we possibly can. And I mean, the messages they've been putting out over the past, say, 2 months now, pretty aggressive. And now it's just like, following through and making sure that you carry that momentum into the administration, into this like new leadership style, and try to right some wrongs, try to fix some issues, try to repair America and do the whole Make America Great Again thing. And hopefully that also supports making Bitcoin, $1 bajillion or whatever people are wanting,
Any thoughts on that, David?
Yeah, I largely agree. And it's funny, I have started to write my op-ed for tomorrow, and I pretty much said the same thing, that if Trump really wants to do this, he will. And so whether it's through the Federal Reserve or something else, it's going to happen if he really wants to do it.
Yeah, so I think there's an interesting discussion about whether this is actually good for the US or the US dollar. But before we get into that, I just want to note a few more data points relating to the game theory of this whole Bitcoin strategic reserve and how things are playing out. So first of all, we have the Texas and Pennsylvania state legislatures, and they have both introduced Bitcoin reserve bills. So you have the states kind of trying to front run the federal version of the Bitcoin strategic reserve. All right, there's that. And then we have apparently in Russia, a minority party proposed a Bitcoin strategic reserve. In Japan, a lawmaker whose name, by the way, is Satoshi Hamada, introduced questions in the Diet asking the government to consider, quote, a status of understanding the movement to introduce Bitcoin reserves in the United States and other countries. Something lost in translation there a bit, as often happens with Japanese quotes, but it seems like they're trying to put some attention on they're noticing what's happening in the rest of the world, and they're saying we should be talking about this. Okay, just a few more data points. Two more. One is the city of Vancouver passed a motion to make the city Bitcoin friendly by, one, accepting Bitcoin as payment for taxes, and two, establishing a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And drafted by the mayor, the motion said, quote, it would be irresponsible for the city of Vancouver to not look at the merits of adding Bitcoin to the city's strategic assets to preserve the city's financial stability. And so the city is going to conduct a feasibility study to be completed in the Q1 of next year. And the last data point here on the game theory is it's a prediction from David Bailey, the CEO of Bitcoin Magazine, and he says, quote, by this time next year, the USA, China, Russia, and Saudi will all have one, and one referring to a Bitcoin strategic reserve. So that all seems quite bullish. Any comments on any of that?
It's, I mean, you see all these kind of rumors coming out, and it's just, it really does feel like the chances of it happening are higher just from the kind of caliber of people who are suggesting this, and kind of the number of people who are suggesting this. So I didn't, a month ago, 2 months ago, I had a pretty low % chance of happening, but I don't know. Now I guess I'm approaching 50-50. I still find it hard to believe that it'll happen. And I don't know, have you guys thought about like how they would do this, right? Are they going to TWAP? That seems like a really stupid move to do, right? Basically allowing everyone in existence to kind of front run them in this. So even when you get into like kind of the details of how this would work in reality, it just seems a lot of the ways it would work are kind of bad. I don't know. Those are my general thoughts on it.
Yeah. I think the only way to do it would be to like make it go through very quickly, right? And I don't see how they can do that.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, the amount of money that they're talking about would move markets, right? Like it would move markets a lot, right? It would. So, I mean, I guess conceivably they could kind of try to get an OTC deal or something. I have no idea. It seems, yeah, difficult.
I mean, is there a possibility that they're already doing it somehow?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that there there is a chance that like you may already be making purchases in some way, and there could even be some legal framework that's allowing them, I don't know, or allowing them to somehow purchase ahead of things. I have no idea how they would be pulling that off, but perhaps there's like some amount of OTC going on where there is this, front run the front runners game theory. And can you do that in a legal and safe and effective way? Maybe. I mean, OTC is probably the only path there, but the issue with OTC is it's so illiquid for how much they were probably trying that it might just be like a little drop in the bucket.
I would think that's what you would do, except the one thing that I don't see that happening right now is Trump's not the president, and the current lame duck admin has made it perfectly clear that they're trying to jam in tons of like bad stuff while they still are like grasping onto power. So, yeah, I don't think it's happening yet.
All right. Well, I think let's play this clip from Nick Carter because I think it sets up an interesting discussion about this whole Bitcoin reserve and whether or not it's actually good for the U.S. So let me just play this clip here.
Folks we've been talking to over the last few weeks think it is something that is likely going to happen under the Trump administration. You're not one of those folks. Why do you not see one happening?
It depends what we mean by strategic reserve. If we're talking about a stockpile and just holding the Bitcoin the U.S. government has already seized, unclear how much they have right now. They might be selling off some of those coins. I think we can reasonably expect that to happen. Trump's been clear on that front. If we're talking about Cynthia Lummis's bill buying 1 million Bitcoins over 5 years, acquiring more Bitcoins for the U.S. government, or even potentially moving away from the existing dollar system to a Bitcoin-backed system, I don't think that's likely. I don't see support in Congress for that. Congress would have to authorize that. I don't believe that it would be prudent, frankly, for the U.S. government to signal a move away from the dollar system, move to a commodity standard based on Bitcoin. Any other nation state, it makes sense for them to acquire Bitcoin, and they are, Bhutan, El Salvador, that's fine. The U.S. is the issuer of the global reserve currency. We shouldn't do something that would call into question our own solvency. So even though I am a Bitcoiner, and it would certainly benefit me if the U.S. government started buying Bitcoin, I'm also an American, and I don't think it would benefit anyone if we were to shake confidence in global markets by implying that the dollar is at risk.
Well, as we mentioned.
All right. So Nick Carter's saying it's not good for the U.S. to have a Bitcoin, to talk too much about a Bitcoin strategic reserve. It would be damaging to the U.S. dollar, and as the issuer of the global reserve currency, it's a dangerous game to play. Some other people I've heard saying the exact opposite of that, which is that buying Bitcoin on putting Bitcoin on the U.S. strategic reserve on the balance sheet is actually protecting the U.S. dollar. So I feel like there's two sides to this debate here. Do you guys land on one side or the other, or?
I think for me, I do tend to be more on the side of like the government. The government protects the value of the U.S. dollar primarily through the use of violence and through its war machine. The dollar's not backed by gold. The dollar's not backed by anything except the might of the U.S. military. So long as the military-industrial complex continues, the dollar kind of remains. And anyone who challenges that, you go into these North African states or Middle Eastern states, some wars have broken out because some people are saying, hey, maybe we'll just do our own dollar. Gaddafi got because he was looking at doing his own dollar, bypassing this whole US thing. And part of me thinks that this Bitcoin reserve could be the thing that rebacks some of the might of the US dollar without the need for so much violence and war. And I wonder if Trump and his team are saying, hey, let's go American first and not be, this, like playing the Game of Thrones thing and just focusing on building a great nation and a really productive workforce and a productive people, that maybe this is like a path for more peace and while supporting the US dollar. And maybe that's kind of naive and optimistic, but you could in theory buy your way back into making the US dollar great again through backing it with something more valuable than gold or more scarce than gold, and perhaps that is Bitcoin.
I
David?
partly agree. I mean, I think whether we have a Bitcoin reserve or we don't. I actually don't think it matters to for kind of the confidence of the dollar. So it doesn't really matter. You could have it or you couldn't, and it really won't make a difference. I think because the value of the dollar, I mean, as Corbin said, it is tied to the strength of the U.S. But I would put it more than just the military. The military is definitely a huge part of it. It's also like our economy is the strongest in the world. Most of the innovation in the world comes from the U.S. Our financial system is the most developed, transparent, produces the most data, most liquid. Our borders are very secure, right? We have two neighbors that are kind of not a problem, and then we produce lots of food and have all this kind of built-in strategic security into our country. We also are the #1 oil producer in the world right now, by the way. So there's that. We've been that for I think a decade at least. So I mean, these are the reasons that the dollar is strong. The other part of that is, not to get too much into this, is more than half of all dollars that have been created outside of the U.S. In the euro dollar system. And this is dollars created outside of the U.S. from non-U.S. parties to non-U.S. parties, as in these are institutions and individuals and countries that owe each other dollars that they created. We didn't create. And so, they have everyone in the world has an incentive for the dollar system to remain strong and for the dollar to remain robust, because if the dollar weakens a lot, the assets on their balance sheets all over the world start to weaken a lot. So I don't know. I think that's kind of why the dollar is where it is. And who cares about the Bitcoin reserve?
So you're saying if the U.S. does create a Bitcoin reserve, it's not really going to impact the dollar?
I don't think so. I really don't. And if it does, then I think the dollar should fail. Like if the piddly little Bitcoin right now, right, even if it doubles or triples or whatever, all this kind of stuff, it's just so tiny. It's a tiny little, oh, it's so cute. And I just, yeah. So it shouldn't matter.
All right. So Nick Carter's take, that's just FUD.
I think he has a point. I think he does kind of have a point that some people, I think, in crypto think that Bitcoin will be the savior of the U.S., right? Like it's going to help against the U.S. making bad monetary decisions, and we have started to make some really bad decisions those decisions have affected the value of the dollar. And I think thinking that way, that Bitcoin is going to save the dollar, is probably just a kind of it's not actually addressing the problem of what we're doing wrong with the dollar, what the U.S. is doing wrong with the dollar. Like, for example, seizing Russian assets and all that kind of stupid stuff. So yeah, and as Corbin said, getting into wars, and I mean, just doing that kind of stuff is just stupid. And so I think maybe symbolically it might be bad. Like, hey, we can do dumb stuff, and it'll be okay because we're going to hold Bitcoin, and that'll make up for it.
All right. As we do here on Token Narratives, we're going to move on from the purity of the Bitcoin discussion and dive into the degeneracy of whatever else is happening in the crypto markets. And today we're going to focus a little bit on the HyperLiquid ecosystem, which has emerged here recently as a sort of a darling of the space in this latest dip/dump. The HYPE token, which is the token of the HyperLiquid ecosystem, has held up pretty well. And of course, over the last month or so, it's been pretty much up only. So let's just start off here with a quick recap of exactly what HyperLiquid is. So I've got some notes here. HyperLiquid is a decentralized perpetual exchange operating on its own layer 1 blockchain. So it's a side chain, or an L3, I guess you could call it, to Arbitrum.
No, so I was wrong about this.
seem
I said
accurate?
I said that last week, and I was wrong. Apparently it's just a fully fledged L1. I don't know why. I couldn't find the reason why they decided to only have a bridge from Arbitrum to it. My guess is maybe it started off as an L3 and then they pivoted to an L1. I don't know exactly. Anyway, apparently it's a fully fledged L1 now. And for whatever reason, the only bridge is via Arbitrum. Although if you use something like the bridge, bridge, the bridge.
Yeah, D-Bridge. Yeah.
D-Bridge, or yeah, that sounds better.
Bitcoin.com partner.
Use
D-Bridge.
the bridge, man.
Excellent
use the
tech.
bridge. Yeah, it's awesome tech. You can bridge with one click from, for example, ETH mainnet into D-Bridge. So
yeah,
highly
I
recommend
used
it.
this the other day, and it was I used some other bridge. It took like 15 minutes, and then I used D-Bridge, and it took D-Bridge, man, and it took seconds. So shout out to D-Bridge.
Yeah, bridging sucks, but D-Bridge is actually very good in the sense that like it's probably the only reliable thing I can go to from like ETH or other EVMs into Solana or into like other chains as well. It's just, you're not waiting around wondering, did I just screw up and lose all my money?
All right. So
nice
just
when you're doing
continuing on
bridge.
what is. Oh, we lost you there, Corbin. God damn it. That's a nice 50-yard stare, though, that he's frozen on. I like that.
Sorry,
I
guys.
thought I was the one. I thought I was the one
having
with
some
the
bad internet out here. Dude, the commies are watching me. They're on to me.
I'll continue on here with what is HyperLiquid. Okay, so some other notes, David, here you made in the doc. It's a fully on-chain order book as opposed to an automated market maker. So that's part of what makes it snappy.
It also,
obviously, it's fast. And yeah, go ahead.
Just in general, like an order book is just a better way to host trades, right? An AMM is decent, but it's nowhere near as efficient.
Yep. Okay, and beyond that, liquidity. So about over 50% of total perpetual DEX trading volume right now is happening on HyperLiquid. It's about 10% of the open interest that Binance has, which is pretty significant. David, you had another note here, which is that during volatility, HyperLiquid might actually have better liquidity than even centralized exchanges on major perps like ETH due to HLPs. What's that?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing to note on this is during kind of like volatility events, what'll happen is market makers will, understandably withdraw their market making activities, right? Because they don't want to get rinsed on facilitating trades. And as they withdraw their market making, liquidity dries up, right? And that kind of spirals downward. And so much of the vaunted liquidity that you see on like centralized exchanges or whatnot can disappear rapidly when there's volatility. And this is, of course, when you want liquidity the most. And so HLPs are HyperLiquid has this primitive baked into the protocol that basically incentivizes liquidity, and you can think of it as kind of decentralized market making. It kind of allows anyone to become a market maker and then get fees like a market maker would for facilitating trades. I don't know. I haven't dived into how the tech works exactly, but it seems pretty awesome, and it appears
currently
to have helped.
HyperLiquid generates. Yeah, currently HyperLiquid generates the fourth most fees of all L1s, and this came out of nowhere, right? It's well, it's been around for months, but it's now ranking quite high. So there's another interesting component of the HyperLiquid ecosystem, which is that the way that they restrict the tokens that can be listed on there. So they have a listing auction mechanic. And how it works is every 31 hours, there's an auction for a new coin listing on HyperLiquid. And you can, let me just bring up some stats here, just a sec. Sorry. All right, so over here on the right, you can see on the left, you can see the latest auctions. So the next auction is in 13 hours and 15 minutes with a starting price of $1 million. And that can sort of be considered a listing fee, and the fee goes back to the to HyperLiquid, like in the form of a buyback of the hype token. So there's an interesting mechanic there, but also it limits the amount of tokens, right, that can be listed on this exchange, which provides a focal point, I guess you could say, for people trading. Instead of there being 10,000 new coins listed per day, as we see on Pump Fund and elsewhere, there's only one new one every 31 hours. And so the coins that do get listed have more liquidity. And there's, if you're in the trenches trying to pick a winner here, there's less to choose from, which is kind of interesting.
And because it's an auction, presumably if HyperLiquid becomes more and more popular, then the teams have to be more and more legit, right? Because the cost to list will go up, and so it kind of should presumably weed out kind of more sketchy or scammy, you'd imagine, projects.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the hardest thing with any decentralized exchange, is just filtering the good from the bad and knowing. I mean, you never know, right? You see a new coin, even if it gets hype, even if people are talking about it across X and stuff like that, it could still be a rug, or it could still have some weird issues with it, or the tokenomics, or the team, or whatever. And then, it's not good. But I think, yeah, in this sense, creating the correct incentives to increase the chances of like the assets being showcased being of higher quality is probably like a smart play, where it sort of self-moderates in some ways. I'm sure there's some ways a degenerate scammer can sneak by it still, but like, yeah, if the costs do get high enough, perhaps it does kind of moderate some of the pure garbage away. But I think it's so hard to determine what is pure garbage these days, because like Fartcoin, all-time high, everything's red right now. The whole market is bleeding red, and Fartcoin is ripping. And so how do you tell? How do you tell these days?
Yeah. And speaking of degeneracy, there's definitely degeneracy happening here. So I just want to try to explain, because I've never used the Telegram trading bots, but what's happening here with HyperLiquid is there's an ecosystem of pre-launch trading meme coins, mostly exclusively meme coins. Who am I kidding? Where you can ape into these, and let me try to demo it here. Right. So first of all, okay, it's called hyper.fun. And here's here's their website. All right, these are some of the coins that are vying to win that auction. All right, and so we've got Hyena. I don't know. It's endless. It scrolls down pretty much forever. Well, okay, they've cleaned this up since the last
Kind of
I
like
looked at it.
this is
All right.
this is your like pump.fun kind of
Yes.
pre-filter, right? Like this is
Yes, the pre-filter. These are people vying to get that listing. All right. Now,
yeah.
at the risk of bringing up something too disgusting here, here's how it looks in the Telegram. Can you guys see this? So I'm in the hyper pump chat, and it's a Telegram group with 27,000 members. And we've got all these channels here for the different coins that are vying to be listed on HyperLiquid. All right. So then if you just like click on one of these here, I've got HTARD, which got some quality memes. Now you can see in here there's an option to trade. Right. I just hit this trade button. Okay. And I can buy. I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to buy $20 of HTARD. Done.
I mean, you got to be HTARDed to open your Telegram on a live stream, man. You're braver than me. I would not be touching that.
Oh man,
Exactly.
that's great.
So I'm going to buy another 100. Just you know. So I still insufficient balance. All right, that's embarrassing.
What a brokey.
So I thought that was quite interesting. I've been wondering what's going on with the Telegram trading bots, a Telegram trading system, and my friend finally showed me how to do it, and it's pretty cool.
Are they self-custodied, or is this like you're trusting Telegram? They are, huh? Interesting.
Well, I don't know. I didn't get a seed phrase or anything like that, but
it might be tied to your account in some way.
I have an address. That I can send.
Someone's gonna rug your HTARD, man. You got to protect those. Those are too valuable to custody.
That's funny.
So what chain is this per thing on? Where are they?
So that's also on the HyperLiquid chain,
the
as far as I understand it.
Thing. Okay.
Yeah. So you can transfer any spot token from HyperLiquid straight to your Telegram trading bot address and start aping.
It does seem like the Telegram ecosystem continues to grow, but it is funny that so much of it seems to grow outside of the native Telegram wallet. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. So it does seem like there's
know what the native Telegram wallet is.
Yeah, so Telegram has its own self-custody wallet, and you can supposedly build dApps and like web Telegram apps and stuff like that use it. But it always seems like the more popular, I don't know, trading bots and things like that aren't actually implementing it. They use something else, and then it ends up, or maybe they are using it and under the hood. I just have no idea. But I haven't really. It just seems like there's some fragmentation within like the builders and that part of it. Maybe they're just kind of going towards the path of least resistance, or I have no idea. But it does mean yeah. Regardless, people are using Telegram as like an alternative to an exchange and as an alternative to a DEX. It's cool. I just it's not where I feel most naturally safe. Telegram is kind of sketch.
Yeah, it's the trenches. It's the
trenches. Yeah, totally trenches, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, as far as I know, there have been a couple like Telegram bot rugs where the developer ran off with the funds that were in these wallets. So I saw those stories. I was like, I don't want to put too many funds in these wallets because I'm not sure about the security on that. I will note though, like about this like hyper thing. It just reminds me why I love like crypto. So HyperLiquid, they created this auction mechanic, right, to try to gate who could get in, and then of course, some smart degen was like, you know what, let's try to like not game it, but kind of make it more efficient, and so they developed this platform to really kind of ramp up the efficiency of this hyperliquid gating mechanism, and then they've made it into this just very, very streamlined way to get into to win the auction.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that kind of stuff.
And it's really cool. Yeah. Also, just noting like Telegram. I mean, it's pretty based. There's what other messaging platform out there can you just like trade crypto on? No one else is even close to that.
I mean,
yeah.
if you guys just kind of zoom out on where we've come from, like a chat perspective, I mean, like, yeah, I remember IRC and then ICQ and then MSN. Do you guys remember MSN? And then you'd be in like school and people put their lyrics in their name and be like, "Oh, that's such a good song. It's a good quote from that song." You know, and they'd put like when they got emojis in there, it was like a big deal. And now we've fully evolved to trading complete dumpster shit coins on our chat apps.
HTARD.
It's great. Yeah. It's great.
HTARD.
It's a revolution.
HyperTard.
Yeah. HyperTard. Oh, I should mention also. I haven't gotten into all these details. I fell so far behind on this Memecoin stuff, but apparently one of the major benefits that HyperLiquid offers to any coin that gets listed, so there's like one coin every 31 hours or whatever it is they get the full benefit of HyperLiquid's what's it called, liquidity mechanism, which means that you don't get any of this kind of like AMM jumpy crazy liquidity mechanics where you can have like scammy pools where you put in like $10 on one side and a million coins on the other, and you get this like really messed up not very smooth curve. And so that's one of the big incentives for people to get listed on through this thing. Is that mechanism. And apparently this mechanism is again baked into the protocol itself. So when I think they said later this Q1, Q2, 2025, any protocol that builds on HyperLiquid will have access to these kind of base building blocks. But anyway, so again, just outside of the fact that HyperLiquid seems to be really popular now, it does have these extra benefits for trying to get listed, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. So I think that concludes our shilling of HyperLiquid. The HyperLiquid team, you could just reach out to us directly.
Yeah, we will
for our payment. Where's our airdrop? Well.
Yeah, send it to Graham's Telegram. We'll take payment in HTARD, HyperTard.
I do accept payment in
derivative. We'll do it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right, so we're wrapping up here the hour. Does anyone have any show and tell or other topics they'd like to bring up? Last call.
Oh, maybe last thing I saw was there was some sort of COPA trial with Craig Wright. I don't know if you guys saw that on X.
No.
Craig was still fighting with COPA, or COPA was fighting with Craig. I think there was some sort of conclusion to the trial that I don't want to misspeak because he's very litigious. But yeah, maybe you guys can pull up a tweet if you find one.
I think I got something here. Let's bring it up.
Let's quote someone else.
Is this it?
Let them sue them.
Very likely tomorrow afternoon, Craig Wright will be sentenced to significant sanctions for contempt of court, including jail time. His lawsuit against COPA to prove he was Satoshi Nakamoto failed. His appeal to have that judgment overturned failed. The final appeal. The appeal is final. It cannot be further appealed to the UK Supreme Court by law. Craig Wright again is not Satoshi Nakamoto, in case anyone still thought that might be the case.
What's the future of BSV look like, guys? Where does that go?
Well, it's not looking good.
Well, so part of me would say like it's going to zero, but then you look at something like Luna. I think even it's not zero. Like someone's trading these
crypto
things.
coins never die.
They don't die. They just live on in microcosms and HTARDed Telegram groups.
Yeah. All right, that's a good one.
HyperLiquid next.
Yeah.
I have a little show and tell here, a little copy pasta. So I thought this has been resonating with me. This little graphic here. So you got the one guy sitting on a literal throne of money, and he says, "I think the cycle might be over." And then you have the other like young pup. Obviously, he's poor, but he's saying, "We are so early." So to me, this just really sums it up. I hear people all the time like who have made it. And they're like, the cycle's over.
I mean, so my initial thought with this recent dump, we hit what, 106, pulled back to like 97, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, this is a great opportunity to tell your family and friends, mainly the ones you don't like, that maybe this is the last chance to get in before, 100K. Like, this is the last stop, boys. Is it? I don't know, man. Like, hopefully, but yeah, I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of greedy pores out there, and I think there is some there is some like necessary exit liquidity that needs to be dumped on people that you got to learn. It's a trial by fire. We've all, those early cycles when you get into it, you're not making money. I mean, like there's a few lucky people, you buy Doge at the right time, or you bought farts early, and but not everyone gets that golden ticket. A lot of us have to just slog it in the trenches and get beat up and dumped on, and someday you figure it out. That pigs go to slaughter.
All right, I love it. On that note, David, last thoughts.
No, go ahead. That's it.
I was just gonna say, on that note, that's a good note to end it on. The pigs go to slaughter. So let's wrap it up there. Thank you, gentlemen. Great insights as always, and thank you for everyone who joined in on Bitcoin.com's Token Narratives. We'll see you next week for our last show of the year. Adios, everyone.
Good
Merry
podcast,
Christmas.
guys.